As we're waiting, I've just been reminded this morning, this room is wonderful to have. This room, it's a bit echoey. So when we ask you to come up, just let you know the microphones are here and here, and just to speak clearly. And if elected members, we could try and not talk at once. That would be great. Thank you. That just makes it easier for those online and full recordings later. Okay. We are, let's go. Me karakia tātou. Pātaka te hau ki te uru. Pātaka te hau ki te dona. Kia mā ki me ki ruta. Kia mā tātou ki tōra. Kia ana te ata. Kia ruka te hau. Kia ora. Good morning, everybody. And good morning to those online and who will be attending online and who have come to be with us today. How we roll here at the Peninsula Community Board is pretty friendly. So if you're coming up to the front, don't worry too much. It's kind of like we have a dining table here, and this is where all the talking happens. And over here we've got our lounge. Just be comfortable, sit back and relax until it's your time. If you've booked in, we will ask you to come up to the table and we'll have a chat. If there's any questions while you're up at the table, don't hesitate to ask as we're going along. Happy to answer those. I think that's all I need to talk about at the start. No apologies, we've just got Nigel who's trying to come on via Zoom. Hopefully he can join us shortly. Okay, apology for lateness, good point, thank you. I'm happy to move that. Who would like to second it? Tyrone, all those in favour? Right. That's carried. Thank you. And as always, if there's any declarations of interest that you would like to put forward now, let me know. Or if, as we're discussing it, you take note of that and let us know. Those things are really important, just so that we've got them noted. Thank you. Let's move on to confirmation of previous minutes. I have a mover.
I'll move we accept those, Madam Chair.
Tyrone and Asif to second. All those in favour?
Right.
Against? That is carried. All right, let's get stuck in. Thanks for those who are coming to public forums. I'm going to start off with lovely Sarah. You're going to talk to us from Little River Wairua Community Trust.
Yep. Sorry.
That's all good.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So I'm here to talk on behalf of Coronation Library because the building can't talk for itself, and in the minute it looks in a pretty sad state, and I'm sure it's got a lot of stories to tell. So if we go to the second one. So a very brief history. On May 30th, 1911, the Little River Domain Board decided to seek a government subsidy for a coronation memorial. Now, the government subsidy was a thing that the government at the time offered to all communities to do this. Very few took them up on this. Coronation Library is one of a few. The plan was that we had to seek, or the domain committee, domain board had to seek a certain amount, and then the government would match it. On the day that they sought it, £172 was given straight away, which is pretty major, and the rest was met over the coming couple of weeks. The tenders went out for the full Coronation Library in October, and it was double the estimate. £13, which sounds probably familiar, but by November 3rd, the Luttrell brothers had offered to build it for the 415 rather, with the completion date expected in 1912, but with some delay. It didn't open until March 15, 1913. One of those delays was a couple of floods. So if we click again, there'll be a picture. And this is Coronation Library in around 1920, and those fencing around there was to stop the stock that the AMP showground used, and some fencing is no longer there, but yeah, that's quite cute. So next one. So this is how it was used previously. It was used by the Coronation Library Committee, which managed and maintained the building. Now they charge people £5 a year to be members, and that's what they used to help cover the cost of the lease of the land. There were book clubs as part of the library. Community organisations used it for hosting social gatherings and meetings. And this include sending the sailors off to war. So before they went to the craft station, which was the train station, they went to Coronation Library first. And the Wairewa County Council used it as a backup for their community administration and local governance activities. The AMP Show Committee that organises the AMP show here, they used it, and they actually used it right up until, well, they couldn't use it anymore. The toy library was in there for a period of time, and the roll of honours, which are now at the craft station, were also in there. And if you click again, we can see two pictures. So the one on the left is about 1920 as well. And these are people seeing off the troops to something. I'm not sure what. It's in the National Library Archives. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some baby troops playing in Coronation Libraries. Just in the background, you can see the weekends there as well. Next slide. So for the trust, how we plan on using it and how the community has told us they would like to use it is the following things. So community meetings, that would include all our trust meetings. That would be things like our emergency response meetings, our sort of general gatherings, including the community breakfast and the likes. Knitting and spinning groups, reading clubs, so bringing back some element of the libraryness to it. After school care for tamariki, which is very much desired, as we've seen in Little River Big Ideas. Social services and community sport, following akin to Kerry in Akaroa. Learning opportunities. There's a keen group of drama and singing people who would like to start something. Movie and social nights, and the AMP Show Committee would like to start using it again as their home base, as would the trust. It would be nice to have a home base. And in the next slide, there's a whole lot of pictures. So this is the interior as it looks at, well, as it looked at the time in 2015 when these photos were taken, which you can find in this document here. At the minute, it's been somewhat damaged on the interior. These are quite nice pictures. You can see the Cody walls and the fireplaces, which are going to be decommissioned, but they're going to stay in place, which is really beautiful. And if you click again, keep going, sorry. This is the plan. The top right one is the options for the bathrooms, which the trust decided on. So 3 toilets, including an accessible one, internal access to the toilets, whereas previously you had to go around and outside the building and back in, which is a bit of a mission on a rainy day. Have I got a minute or is I done?
Yeah, 1 more minute.
And if you click again, and that's it as it stood about a month ago. Someone had come in and done some weed editing, which actually was really, really nice. And you can see that the windows have been ordered up on the left-hand side here. Now this building here is the last one standing by the Luttrell Bros, or Luttrell Brothers. And it is very reminiscent of all their designs. They very much kept this curved ending on one of their buildings. They really loved these pillar structures near their entrances. All the windows and the eaves of them are very reminiscent of all their other buildings, and so this is the last one standing of theirs. I really feel it needs to still be standing, and I would really like to be inside of it soon.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm aware of the time, but I'm also aware I know there'll be a question or two, so we'll do that really quickly. So it's fair for all the other guests as well. Any questions? Julie?
One question, which is, so you said there's some damage inside at the moment. What was that from?
So it looks like some local people have potentially broken in. So there's a really good video. If you go to YouTube and search for Coronation Library Little River, there's a video that someone posted about a year ago of walking through it. And you can see there's been graffiti and people have brought chairs in, and it's interesting.
Wasn't you that serious?
It wasn't all me. I didn't try it, so I can't get in there either. So, but yeah, it's a bit sad to see it in that state.
Those lists of opportunities to use the Coronation Library, are they just ideas, or are they actually people who have
Actually, people who have come and said they want to do things, which is
Right.
really awesome.
Yeah.
Some of them have started elsewhere, like they've either done a home group, or they've started here, or they're sort of just waiting on tenterhooks, basically.
Okay.
So 2 of them, so the drama club, they started at school earlier this year. The singing one hasn't started yet. Knitting and spinning is a home group. There's a reading group that's already started as a home group. The only concern with any of them starting as a home group is often once they've started, bringing new people in can be really tricky. So starting in a community space means that it's more likely to open up to the wider community, which is really good. Yeah.
Great. And so, so there's been a bit of a waiting list, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not putting any numbers down on first in, first serve or anything like that. It's a, I'll take your name, I'll take your details, and as soon as we've got it open, I'll let you have more information, but I'm not numbering people.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming.
If I could just make a comment here, we're actually going to do a briefing to the board probably this month on the situation with Coronation Library. There's been some delays and some issues with staff are working through, so we'll do a session and update everybody on where that's at.
Great. Thank you so much for that. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. No geckos were harmed in that weed eating that you got.
I hope not. I wouldn't tell Alison.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks so much.
Kia ora. Marcus, come on up.
Thank you.
You're going to talk to us today about freedom camping and compliance costs.
Well, not really.
Because that's what we've got down here, so we might have to hold you to that.
Yeah, well, it's in regards to that. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Marcus Quinton from the Little River Campground. We are one of the largest accommodation providers on the peninsula, and yet we struggle to even employ anyone because of lack of tourists and through the freedom camping rules that the council have. So first of all, I would like to voice my frustration yet again at how the council, I called the council to get some details. I wanted to speak to someone in regards who looks after the freedom camping, and I got a phone number from one of the Army Guard guys who gave me someone called Tyrone's number. Wasn't you? No one has ever answered my text, answered my calls,
Definitely wasn't me.
got back to me in regards to that. So I called the council to speak to someone. They went, you can't speak to anyone, we will find out who it is and they'll get back to you with my questions. Then I get something from the official information office saying, oh, we believe you want some information on the compliance cost of that. In the past, that has been, I've had the same issue when this first happened a while ago with the woman saying it is commercially sensitive information, which I believe as taxpayers and ratepayers, we are, you guys are the public servants that should be looking, you know, the public servants, just to remind you that, and to not be able to be fobbed off basically by someone, and so to actually speak to someone, because I had numerous questions about the compliance cost, how did Army Guard actually get the $80,000 a year contract? So this $80,000 was spent about 5 years ago to monitor the freedom camping. That worked out to $200 an hour because it was for 20 hours a week for 3 months of the year, $200 an hour. That's $400 for an Army Guard guy to drive out to Akaroa and to look at and go, oh, the double part, that's all right. We'll just tell them not to poo in the wherever. So there are very few infringements, if any, and it cost the ratepayers $80,000. So my questions for them was, how did Army Guard, and this is for you, and I would like someone at the council to answer them, how did Army Guard get the contract? how much does it cost, what infringements were given, what sites are checked, because they don't check Caitons Bay, for example. And that's one of my bugbears, is when I've spoken to about Caitons Bay, the Runanga have gone, oh, we don't want freedom camping there. DOC have gone, oh, it's not our land. Council have gone, it's not our land. NZTA have gone, it's not our land. So everyone's passing the buck, and yet myself, obviously, I don't like freedom camping there. And this brings on the management plan, the sustainable tourism management plan that was done by Christchurch NZ. How many of you guys have read that?
Yeah, I've got it. You mean the destination management plan?
Is it a management plan? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So
we have put it
you've all read it?
Yeah.
So that cost over $400,000. And did anyone actually see anything in that was new, of going, wow, what a revelation?
About freedom camping?
No, about tourism in general. So that $400,000 was, they interviewed less than 100 people to get the feedback from the community. There were no stakeholders. I didn't get asked. So this is one of the other things of asking random residents in Akaroa what they think about tourism isn't exactly, and having under 100, this is in the draft management plan.
Sure.
And
I'm happy to talk to you about the destination management plan sometime,
Well,
but we'll
yeah.
just stick with the freedom camping.
Well, it's all part of this, because that cost over $400,000. It came up with things that we all know that tourists want to see cultural things, historical things, biological things, environmental things. And yet the council is promoting like that. It's regenerative tourism. I personally don't think tourism is regenerative if there are freedom campers. And because one of my things is that these companies, they will sell a van for $300 a day, if not more, to a tourist and go, you don't have to spend another cent. Park wherever you like. And this is how many businesses have that they rely on the taxpayer and the ratepayer to actually fund their business. And that these people spend $300. Of course, they don't want to spend anything more once they get somewhere. And it ends up that if you have a look at the car park in Akaroa, it's pretty, if people are here for the experience, they come for the nature and that. We have a campground with some of the best bird life that anyone would hear anywhere in the country. And yet on the weekend, we have very few tourists coming. And whether that's part of our marketing or whether it is like we pay too much for these vans, we're heading to Akaroa and we're going to freedom camp. Mm. So that, to me, is frustrating in that I'm a small business, and if we close, then that's potentially 100, like we can cater for up to 100 people a night. Mm. And over summer, it does get busy. If we go, where are those people going to go? And
you've got a fantastic campground, and we would love to support you. I'm just thinking about the time available, because I know there'll be questions around. We want to ask you some questions on this too, and make sure that we've got those questions right that you were asking, so we can go away and get staff to follow up on those.
This is, why can't a ratepayer or someone that lives in Christchurch call the council and speak to someone? It's always like, sorry, we will get back to you. No one has a direct line now. No one answers their phones. You cannot get to speak to someone. It's outrageous that letter in regards to a query with what I said. I'd like to speak to someone in regards to that, to get a thing from the Official Information Act going, oh, we'll deal with this in 18 days, which is why I'm here with part of my frustration in that the 18 days isn't up. They said, we'll get back to you by the 18th of November. So this, I would like to present again at the next meeting. I think it's on the 25th, hopefully with some findings about that.
Yeah,
and hopefully I'll have some answers, because there's better ways to do this. Instead of having some armour guard person drive all the way from Christchurch, why not hire, and if it costs 80 grand, why not hire a local in Akaroa that welcomes people, that goes down to that spot and goes, hey, beautiful sunset out on the wharf, there's walk up Children's Bay, that sort of thing, instead of someone in a uniform coming in, looking around, ticking a box, and leaving. It's not welcoming for a start, and it costs a fortune, and there's easy ways, like the Akaroa had the town crier or whatever, someone that is a representative, friendly and knowledgeable of the area that can welcome tourists and potentially, you know, whether there is a charge.
And I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you about that. There's a lot of issues that you raised that we have already actually been working on, to be honest, and it would be great to be able to talk to you in more detail about that rather than have a dictation when we've got 10 minutes. So we've got to be fair for everybody else as well. But I want at this point, so we can follow through and do the correct process so that you do hear back from somebody, as from us, from staff. We've got to make sure that we're going to have your questions correct that you're asking us at this point in time around that, because there was quite this amazing amounts of stuff that you brought up. So we just want to make sure that we've got that. You've got questions written down there. What were those 4 questions on what start?
How did Armour Guard get the contract?
Yep, got
Because
that.
I don't believe it's, well,
Yep.
How much does it cost?
Yep.
What infringements were given in
Yep.
previous years? What sites are checked? And also who puts up and who is in charge of the no freedom camping signs?
Yeah.
Because I would like a couple dozen.
And my question as well, that you probably been frustrated about, is who do you contact in regards to freedom camping? Who is that person?
Well, this is the thing. When you talk to someone, you call the council about freedom camping. If it's after hours, it'll go directly to Armour Guard, who go, okay, we'll send someone out or whatever. But you know, by the time someone drives from Christchurch out to Akaroa or one of the bays, and this is the thing of when those sites are filled, which it often gets, and it is. This is the thing with me. It's like, why do people come to New Zealand? They pay a fortune for these vans and then park in a car park with a van right beside them when there are better spots to experience what they're here for.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
I agree. So we're going to investigate the value for money about the Armour Guard, you know, and how that actually works.
Money, how much it.
Well, there is a bit of that. Are they doing a good job? You know, are they seeing all the spaces where people actually freedom camp? And those questions as well. But also, what does regenerative tourism look like in the freedom camping space? So happy to chat some more to you about that.
Sure.
Definitely.
And thank you, Mark.
We'll just have one question and then we've got to move on, unfortunately.
Thank you, Marcus. These are issues pretty much face every destination in New Zealand. The case of Peninsula is quite unique because we have got an international airport. People land in, they jump on, and the first place they want to get out of the city is here. So there's quite a bit of an element that we'll be discussing going forward with South Christchurch NZ, especially that how we could inform those tourists that there are much better facilities and how they could be used. So keep us informed with whatever information you get from the council.
Well,
and then
with the plan, they spent this money and then we've got no money to implement it now. We're leaving it up to the stakeholders. So I may well do a bit of aggressive marketing. So just letting you know.
And just letting you know, we're working on that implementation plan and our annual plan at the moment. We've talked to the council. We're going to be presenting about that. So it's still on our agenda. These guys just were away the last sort of 3 days at a tourism conference. So it is really at the top of our mind in regards to how we do it properly.
Thank you.
So I'll get back to you.
You know, and hopefully I'll be back with some more details on if that's all right.
thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that to us.
Sorry to be.
Well, I just wish we had more time to discuss it. That's all. But we will. We'll get there. Thank you.
We're in the base all with you because we all have the same.
Right. So if we can have. Sorry, we'll just, excuse me, sorry, we just need to keep the talking at the table.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Shane. Thank you. So, who have we got next? Have we got Harry here? Harry, come on up. Thank you. Akaroa and the Bay's emergency response, team planning.
Yes.
Good stuff.
I'm going to give you an update on where we are.
Fantastic.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, there was a meeting in the Gaiety, and the mayor at the time, Leanne Dalzell, stood up and talked on the subject of civil defence. And she said, basically, look, just get yourselves organised tell us what you want and you'll have our 100% support. Money's no object. That's pretty much what she said. So we're going to put this to the test, right? So there was a working party formed on the subject of civil defence, and I'm the spokesperson for that working party. And the working party has been working away, and we have produced 3 documents. And when I say we, most of the work was done by Leanne Ketchen, assisted by Steve. But where we are at the moment, where there's a 2-page document, emergency information for visitors. Right? Now, these are not quite in final form, which is why I'm not distributing copies just at the moment. But the community response plan for Anuku and Akaroa, this is a 38-page document. And it is compiled with civil defence information from various sources around the country, but tailored to our particular area, with every disaster you could think of covered in some way and what to do in all sorts of situations. And we have a Banks Peninsula Emergency Team Operations Guide. This is for the setting up of a community emergency hub, which would probably be in the gaiety, how to do the setup, what the responsibilities are, who the people are, and so forth, and how it all works together. Now, where are we going from here? At the moment, these documents are going through a final round of sign-off. There were 45 stakeholders that were consulted during the preparation phase. So we're going back to those people, making sure everything is okay, looking for a final sign-off from the police and Fire and Emergency New Zealand. And we are anticipating to be ready to go with these documents before Christmas. And then we're planning on having a community consultation and distribution event. Which is possibly where you come in, because if we're going to have something to distribute, we need to print these documents. And we are looking at this document here, the 38-page document. We need hundreds of copies of this. We're aiming to distribute this to pretty much every household. This document here, which is the best part of 60 pages, obviously that's more limited distribution. It's for the actual operations team. But we would like community board assistance or some other body within council to assist and manage the printing of these documents. And we might be talking a budget of $4,000 or $5,000 for what's needed for that phase. And then after that phase, we do have the actual setup of the community emergency hub and the identifying who the people are, and we go into the training and community education sort of phase. And then there will be a further discussion about resources that we need to, if we're going to manage an emergency hub properly, talking things like emergency generators, wiring significant buildings so they can take a generator almost immediately, and other resources. You know, obviously you need a truckload of road cones and others jackets, you know, but we will get to that stage. We are making quite good progress with this, and we're looking for your support to get into the next phase of these documents. That's where we are.
Could I make a comment here, please? We're really aware that this is really important work, and the development advisors have been working with groups all over the peninsula on developing community response plans and establishing community hubs. There's cost obviously attached to this, especially for our more isolated communities. At the moment, we're recommending that people go to the discretionary response fund, and staff are recommending that that those applications are funded in full. Of course, all of the other things that require funding through the DRF still exist and are still there. So I've had a meeting with the head of funding, community funding. They're doing a funding review at the moment, and talk to him about the need to create some funding for this. And there's also obviously opportunity in the annual plan, and we're talking to groups about making submissions, but the board might be interested in that too. This is vital work, and at the moment there is no body of funding. So, you know, Akaroa and the Bays are not alone in this situation where they've done all of the hard work to support their communities and don't have funds available. I just thought I'd let you know that that's something that we are addressing at a number of different levels.
Thanks, Jane. Nigel's joined us on Zoom as well, and for us here who are local people, just letting you know I have seen you there, Nigel, if you're wanting to comment or any questions at all. Sounds like you've done some great work. So you're on mute. Thank you, Nigel. Okay, while Nigel's sorting that out, I did see Tyrone put his hand up and then Kathy.
For doing questions, it's
Yep.
more of a question for staff.
A couple of minutes.
So this is for Harry.
Sure.
Thank you, Harry, for the deputation. So, and Jane makes the point that like there's a lot of work and it's really well supported by the civil defence team. By council.
Yeah.
So my question is, we made quite a big point during the LTP of properly funding the civil defence unit. So I'm just wondering, like, if we're talking discretionary response, I mean, I don't know how these things work, and I'm sort of looking at Penn, but I'm surprised there's not actually like a pool of funding that within that sort of within the LTP that supports this kind of work rather than discretionary. That's just my question. It's an open-ended question that doesn't need necessarily.
Penn can comment and then we'll go to Kathy.
Yeah, well, just to add to what Jane said, staff are looking at a bid, I think, in the annual plan for a pool of equipment. Because
Okay.
it's right across the
Above and beyond.
city issue.
Right. Okay.
And the board has identified in their pre-draft annual plan work that they would like a fund. In fact, we've identified a small amount, about
Right.
$60,000, to be able to supplement your DRE specifically for these requests across the peninsula, because we've got so many settlements around us at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
It's definitely
We'll finish with Kathy.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk what you're doing, because in Littleton they had the a emergency hub expo in the weekend, and a lovely doctor passed by, and he worked in Cyclone Gabriel and in the West Coast, and he's like, it's amazing you're doing this emergency hub stuff, but there's some big gaps in the system, and he would love to talk about how, there's rural and, wild, nature stuff, a lot of emergency stuff to do in those spaces. So, yeah, so we can connect up, but yeah, thank you.
very good.
Yeah, good stuff.
So I think you can hear there's plenty of support.
What we would like to do is
Yeah,
keep moving.
just.
Yeah, keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
So the next step for you folk would be talk with Steffi in regards to what your needs are as far as DRF. So discretionary response funding, and bring it back, like actually itemise.
We'll just send you them boys, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So as far as the hard work that you folk have been doing, we want to support that. Definitely do, because it would not happen without that. And we acknowledge the volunteer work and the amount of work that has been put into that. So
Right.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, Tyler, do we have Tyler online, or is he around?
Please just call me.
Can you hear me now, you guys?
Yes, Nigel.
Thank you.
So we'll just move on.
Just call me, so
Okay, right, so we're going to have another one, but they're not here yet, so we will move on. We don't have any deputations, no presentations, so we will move on to the Reserve Committee meeting minutes. Thank you, Linda.
Good morning, everyone. Today you received the minutes of 6 of our reserve committees, and some points of interest are Diamond Harbour. Their minutes note that new tracks have been cut across School Gully. However, on checking with Parks, I have confirmed that it was more of a minor alignment adjustment made to existing tracks, so it didn't require board approval. O'Kane's Bay have noted the planting of 300 Rākaihautū, with another planting scheduled for May next year. And that committee is working on their triennial plan at the moment. Pigeon Bay and Duvershell Reserve committees will be presenting their triennial plans later on. Littleton Reserve Committee is working on a draft triennial plan for Whakaropō Reserve and hope to get back to the board in March. Helen asked me to pass on to you that the Gary Broker seat is now in place on Urunga Reserve. Cass Bay Reserve Committee is concerned about a dangerous road crossing to Steadfast. A second convex mirror was suggested for installation between the dryways for pedestrian use to see around the blind corner. I believe one of our CDAs is working with the committee on that. Also of interest there is the upcoming ceremony at Pony Point on December 15 for the unveiling of the pole. I've been thinking about how to raise community awareness of the amazing work that our reserve committees do across the peninsula, and to help with this, we've updated your board webpage with a banner that says find out more about our reserves, which I'm hoping will entice people to the reserve committee webpage, where we've added a brief explanation about what a reserve committee does.
Good.
The webpage handy here. All the upcoming reserve committee meetings that I know about have been added to your board webpage schedule of meetings as well. And as these meetings are open to the public, it would further help to raise community awareness if you could share notice of the meetings for the reserve committees that you represent on your local social media pages, maybe with a link to the webpage. It helps get the word out there. So there's the banner, find out more about Banks Peninsula Reserves, and clicking there takes you through to the Reserve Committee webpage. All the minutes are under the headings on the right hand side there, and you can see we've got a space there now for news articles, and I'll be working on getting some articles from the Reserve Committees to showcase what they do. So that's the Reserve Committee minute.
Fantastic. Do you have any questions for Linda in regards to that amazing report?
I don't know if it's a question for you, Linda, but it's just, I'm just noting on the Cass Bay Reserve Committee minutes, and the matters arising 5.6, dangerous road crossing to Steadfast, and I'm just wondering to know where that's like looking at just looking at improving the safety of the crossing between the sort of the village, if you like, and to Steadfast. It's kind of been looked at by transport staff, and I just don't want that just to sort of, yeah.
Excuse me, it won't be because it's in your plan.
Right. Oh, good. Okay. Thank you, Liz. Is it? Oh, good.
If you read.
I better read it again then. That's good. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, again on Cass Bay. When you're talking about that mirror, the current mirror, that it's a safety reason coming out of the bay turning right, especially the current mirror has disappeared. And so there's a community petition going out as to the safety of it and to be replaced. However, council has responded that mirrors don't do anything. However, the community feels it is a safe, because you cannot see around the corner. So they're looking. So it's just
It's been confirmed on Friday that the mirror is gone.
oh, cool, great.
That'll be good to update the community. You can tell the community.
Good stuff. But yeah,
So just with that, Kathy, the private property that's on the left-hand side as you come out and turn right, where there's a whole lot of vegetation.
yes,
Yeah. Will that help if there's a cutback there?
cut it back. Yes. Yeah, but they've got a fence and then
Yeah.
it's quite.
We can just have that on
Yeah.
for staff to look at vegetation.
Right, before we move on, I'm going to move her in a second. Are there any more questions for Linda about the Reserve Committee minutes? Great. I think just to support that idea with the website of getting the community more not educated, but just aware of what the Reserve Committees do, which is fantastic, all of that there. I wonder if as elected members, we as well during our information exchange time, we could potentially talk about each of the Reserve Committee meetings that we've been to and update the board, and then that will also get online and help with that. So if we could all make a note to that is part of our exchange that we do, our Reserve Committee meetings that we've been to, just to update everybody on that as well. That might add to that and help as well. Yeah, so work on that. Fantastic, thank you. Right, I'm happy to move those minutes. If I have a seconder, please. Yep, Luana, and all those in favour?
Right.
Against? Thank you. Right, well, we're moving on to the Du Rochelle Reserve Committee training plan and reserve schedule, and we've got Colin and Fiona joining us as well. If you can come up to the table and introduce yourself and how you fit in, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Fiona Barnes. I'm the chair of the Du Rochelle Reserve Committee. Local new, not even 10 years, so that's one strike maybe. And I've been on the Reserve Committee for 8 years. So just a bit about the Reserve. It's 2 sites that we look after. We've got the community hall on the main state highway that also, so people can hire it out for functions. We hold our meetings there. AMP, they also hold their meetings there, so it's a reasonably well used hall. And there's a local gym. It's actually the only gym that's in the Rākaihautū Rochelle area, so it's like everything. Our exercise regimes fluctuates, the numbers fluctuate, but it is reasonably well used, and especially the older people in the community. It's good to see using it for strength and things like that. And then the bigger part of what we look after is the actual reserve, which we've got a campground on. So that's on Seafield Road, so just around the corner. Originally, when the reserve commenced, so obviously it was Crown name given to us, it was a beer paddock. So it then was used for a rugby field. There is a cricket pitch on there. There's tennis courts there. Soccer's been played there. So that was the Du Rochelle community, the area, the green space to get together and play sports and things like that. One of our members on our committee, he's been there since 1979, and at that point, all it was a sports field, and it had an ablutions block. So since then, the community has built it up to what it is now, where we have over 100 campsites. We have 8 cabins. 8 cabins. So part of how it works at the moment, so our focus as a committee and what our training plan is about, to want to maintain and improve this asset for all to use and enjoy. We'd like to build 2 more cabins to make the reserve more usable and accessible to everyone and for a longer period throughout the year. And also a building of a toilet and shower block on our boundary. We're quite close to the boat ramp. A lot of people come in, use our toilets at the campgrounds. We have a bit of freedom camping challenges as well, but we feel if there was a toilet for the recreational boaties to use, not all who are staying at the campground, and just an outdoor shower or washing off, as we come over the sea. So then we're just moving forward to our focus areas and goals. We talked about cabins. Pest plants, so we've got a pretty pest-free reserve. We've got 2 full-time staff. So part of, I suppose, our business plan and what we want to do with the triennial plan is keep those staff there, keep them in employment. So maintain pest-free planting, we do spraying, we do both reserve staff. Pest animals, so just something we're looking to join is the Pest-Free Banks Peninsula to install and monitor traps. We don't see much in the way of pests, but just that, I suppose, join in with our community with what we're doing all over the peninsula. We've talked about public toilet. That's in our annual plan, or a 10-year review, whatever you can call that one. We've got 2 tennis courts that are still in use for tennis courts. One is a boat compound, but they need a bit of repair, so that's something else we're looking at doing, which we can self-fund ourselves. Erosion works, we're working with 3 Waters at the moment on the Piper's Stream bank, which is eroded, and it's getting great news that they've agreed that we're going to lose some of our campsites because of the new step with combating erosion. So we've just installed 4 new cabins recently, so we're going to have to move them, but we need to keep them on that stream. The biggest focus is this area here. We want that to stay free of any cabins and things like that. So, because that is the reserve, the local reserve. There's still cricket matches played there by little kids each year. So it's about keeping that area free to be used for sports field, but also in the summer that people can camp there. There's that one. But the biggest thing we need, which will help with, we currently are looking to get an exemption to section 44.2 of the reserves Act. We currently have 58 what we call annual site holders, who their caravans and their either hard awnings or soft awnings are camped there the whole year round. By having those annual site holders, it gives us a steady income stream. So that allows us to maintain the campground. We're financially a successful business and have been. We've funded most, if not all, of our asset growth and maintenance. So that those 58 cabins really help us do that, or annual site holders. So we have reduced that by at least 10% in the last 10 years. So with the mix at the moment, we've got the 58 annual site holders who we obviously have rules and regulations about what they need to do to maintain their right to stay there. We've got 59 casual sites, so that all through the year and in the summer especially, we've got another 59 sites that casual holders the community can use, and we've got 8 cabins that are well used. So looking to maintain all of that with a view of maybe getting the support with DOC were the ones that really challenged the annual site holders as to whether they should be there. So at the moment, they're only allowed to be there for 10 weeks over summer.
3 months.
Yeah. So yeah, we're happy to look at reducing the number of annual sites that we have to increase the casual sites, so that the balance is, I suppose, allowing more people to be able to use the reserve, which is what reserves are all about. It's about when it comes to the asking for money part, with the additional 2 cabins, we would like to really do a bigger cabin in this coming 12 months and all the services in place, and then complete the second cabin the following year. It's about $160,000. We have the funds in our bank account to do this. And we've started going through some of the consent process. Pest-free planting, that's where we're already working on that. We don't need funds for that. Pest-free plants and the pest with the traps. The biggest thing, I suppose, for money is the toilet on the shower block. We feel that because it's a bigger community asset and that we don't have the funds to fund that toilet block. What's interesting is this summer, and I'd love if someone can tell me who, portable toilet has been put at the Derbyshire Walk, which is fantastic. So I'd love to thank, if anyone knows who suggested put there, it just turned up. Because there was a toilet block down there, because it's the people that stop the boats, they drive all the way from Christchurch, they stop, they use our toilets, and then they go off on their boats for the day, which is what that toilet block is about. So but we feel that it probably would cost about $300,000. The staff at the camp, so the part of what we would be happy to do to assist is that we would take over, once it was built, the cleaning, the maintenance, the toilet paper costs and all that, with using our staff that we've got at the campground. They're already there in place. The erosion control, we're already talking with 3 waters, that's under control, and the tennis courts where we've got that in check. But so the 2 big things the Derbyshire Reserve would like to ask for is if you could work with us in regards to getting an exemption to the Reserves Act, with the fact of keeping those annual sites, being able to stay there as long as they adhere to our rules, and look at approving the $300,000 for the toilet block and outdoor shower, which is part of our 10-year plan.
Great, thank you. Linda.
So I just wanted to note that the resolution that you have before you for the acceptance of the training plan includes an exception to the committee's goal that the board seek exemption to sections 44(2) of the Reserves Act to allow the continuation of annual sites of the campground. This is because the board cannot make decisions around the annual sites until community consultation has happened and an options report has been provided to the board to help inform the decision. So that's why that exception has to be in here, because we're supporting your training and accepting it.
Any comments or questions from Tyrone and then Gillian?
Gillian first.
Okay, Gillian.
I didn't quite understand what the exception is that's required from the Reserves Act.
So within the Reserves Act, there's a clause that you can't stay on reserve for more than, I think it's 28 days over summer. And so the original reserve management plan back in 2004-06, when that was going through, essentially didn't get approved because of the annual sites. So DOC at that time had the ability to grant an exemption to that one particular part to stay on reserve for more than that time period. That is now sitting as a council delegation. So DOC gave that through to council. So that's part of the thing that will come into the community board later, is for the multiple reserves, devotionals and Pigeon Bay that have got annual sites on them, which is against the Reserves Act and therefore can't go through the reserve management
So
plan.
effectively, some of them, they can be there every day of the year at the moment. Well, they can't because they have this exemption, but they are there.
So yeah, the sites are occupied by a caravan or
But people can't be there for the whole year. You talk about just was your question about the so because with under the campground camp rules, which they're on a national level, aren't they? You can't stay there for any longer than
the campground regulations dictate that you can't be in a campsite for 50 days, but that's the maximum.
How does it go with like a caravan on site though? So do you have to shift that after 50 days or how does that work? Okay, so caravan can hold that site, but the people occupying it have to go in and out.
Yeah, no one in any of these two reserve states for larger durations. So I'd say 10 days would be some time. They're treating it like a campsite. No one's living there, and that's something that we wouldn't allow for people to be living in the campgrounds.
So all of this will be made very clear.
Yeah, I think it's a big topic.
It's good to get an introduction to it and to start.
What we obviously need to know is that because this is a bigger part of the conversation and we want to, I'm actually preempting it here, but we're going to decide whether we want to support the triennial plan. We have to separate that right now. So that's what I understand we're doing. Is that clear to everybody else? Yep. Okay. Is there any other questions in regards to the details of what Fiona was just talking to us about?
Cool. Thank you, Fiona. I'm delighted to hear that the toilets have turned up at the promotions program because that was a specific provision that council made during the LTP. So for a portable toilet there, and there's also like a provision to investigate the possibility of putting like full-time toilets at the devotional boat ramp. So that's kind of, but that wouldn't come cheap. But I mean, we don't have the information back on that yet. But it's a start. So it's good to know about the need for toilets at the reserve as well, because it's part of the sort of general conversation around toilet provisions and devotionals.
Because see, this is the corner here that which is at Tall Taylor's Lane, if the toilet block was there, because they all stop, like I live here, they all stop outside our house, they put the bungs in, they get their gear on. So if the toilets were on the edge of the campground, it's more.
That might service both things.
Well, totally, I think more so, because at the moment they are using the campground.
So doing toilets we could get day long here, but we do need to focus with the train.
But anyway, it's good to hear that those toilets will be.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Big topic, so.
It is.
Yeah, favorite. So this funding allocation, you asked for 160,000 for 2 extra cabins.
No, I'm not asking for that money. We've got that money. We've got that money.
So you're just asking for the 300,000. Yeah. So it's a question for Tara on that. Is it? I didn't see in the LTP for money allocation for that project in the LTP. Is it there? Funding allocated? No.
No, it wasn't approved.
So there's funding in the LTP for provisional toilets. The devotional boat ramp. And also to investigate the installation of permanent toilets. The conversation about having them at the domain is a different conversation, but sort of interrelated.
So what you're wondering is if there's any funding allocation for this at all?
Yes, and if not, then we could, because their campground is well used, and I know myself and I have sent a lot of friends there. So is there a way that we could support that in the annual plan submission?
We can add it to your list.
Yeah.
Your pre-draft has already gone in, but
Yeah.
when you do your actual submission on an annual plan, you can revise the detail on that.
When toilets are the public toilet, we're waiting for the toilet renewal list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
toilets are a big chunk of what you want to be looking at.
Okay, so maybe we could add
Yeah.
as an example. Yeah,
We'll include them.
yeah, thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Karen.
Awesome. Okay. Oh, Nigel, very quickly, Nigel, thank you.
Yeah, just a comment, it's not a question, it's an add-on to what that discussion is. Isn't this another item, these toilets, another item that we could obviously lobby the government for funding for the tourist, that tourist levy?
Yeah, the TIF, tourism, infrastructure,
Yeah.
funding. Yeah, good thinking.
Good call, Nigel.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
agree.
unless there is any more urgent questions or comments, taking those things into account and the follow-up on what we can do for the toilet and shower and the execution part, can I have a mover
Yeah.
for this, please?
Alma.
Yep, Asa, seconder?
Yep.
Tyrone, do we want debate? Nope, moving on to, no debate. Moving on to, all those in favour? Against? That's carried. Thank you so much, Fiona, for coming in, and
Thank
Colin for providing backup,
Thank
and
you.
for you as well, Linda. Appreciate your time. All the best for the season if we don't see you beforehand. Yeah, good luck, Colin. It's going to be a good one. Right, I'm sorry.
I'm
Somebody,
going to hold you to that, Lynn.
that it's a good summer.
Yeah.
Everything about the summer is going to be good, unless you can come back to me and you can report, Lynn, I wasn't right. Something bad happened this summer. Okay, Pigeon Bay Reserve Committee, Triennial Plan and Reserve Schedule. I'll come up. We've got Heather today.
Yeah.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to start by thanking the Community Board for extending our Reserve Committee special conditions until October 2025. We submitted to the Community Board 2 years ago to have the terms of reference amended to allow reserves with camping facilities be given the opportunity to form a separate identity, such as an incorporated society or charitable trust. The then Community Board agreed, recognised our volunteer contribution to the successful management of the reserve and requested staff to enable our reserve committee to form an incorporated society or other suitable entity. It's been a bit of a journey, frustrating for our committee dealing with 4 different staff members over this time and not feeling that we haven't made progress. But we are now working with Dane and feeling cautiously optimistic that we can move forward and find a workable agreement. This process has also been delayed because of the unresolved issue of the annual site holders not complying with the Reserves Act 1977, which you've said is a separate issue. So.
Yeah, but it's important to note during this.
Okay. So we ask for your support in requesting council exercise this delegation, as we believe the annual site holders are a special part of the Pigeon Bay community. Some of the campers and their families have been coming to the Bay for 30 years and identify as part-time residents of Pigeon Bay. Hopefully after the community consultation process early next year, you will understand how much the annual site holders do contribute to the reserve and the Pigeon Bay community. Yeah, thank you. I'll try and really, we had a big planting, excuse me, earlier this year, and I've lost some due to inundation, but the majority are doing really well. We trialled some traps, were they okay? trialled some traps recently and caught 2 rats, so that was very good. So we're keen to carry on with expanding that. Our main thing, I would say, would be erosion of the seaside of that sea edge of the camp. So it'd be great to have ongoing discussions about how we could mitigate that. And it's also a Pigeon Bay wider issue because the road's been, excuse me, the road coming into the bay has been undermined as well. Sort of business as usual, really, for Pigeon Bay. It ticks along quite happily, and we'd like to engage with the campers on possibly what facilities they might enjoy, but it ticks along, and it's a special little place. So.
Thank you, Heather. Yeah, it's great work going on there. Linda.
As with Do the Shell, you had an exception and a resolution today as well. The resolution to accept and support the triennial plan includes an exception to the committee's focus area that the board supports the committee's application for ministerial exemption to section 44(2) of the Reserves Act to allow the continuation of annual sites at the campground. Same reasons as for Do the Shell, we have to wait for community consultation first and an options report to come to the board.
Great. All right, any comments or questions we have for that panel in front of us here?
No.
So we could show favouritism here, like that, supporting one and
good. Good advice. I like that. I'm encouraged to hear about the traps. I think that there's going to be a fantastic area. I mean, you've got some amazing, is it Pātaka or they Southern Rata? I can never tell what they are.
They might be.
Yeah, I think they might be too. And I just think that the bird life in there with the traps, and it would just, I mean, it's beautiful already, but imagine.
Yes, we really want to encourage that because we've got 5 recent catches as well as the native birds. So
well, that's really exciting to hear that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Heather. You guys are doing some wonderful work, and I think I'm happy to support and move the resolution.
Okay. Right, unless you've got any other comments or questions, we will.
I'm just very curious. Last time I was down there, they repainted the outside of the toilets. Did they ever do the inside? The concrete block one.
Oh, with all our fancy mural.
Yeah, they did the outside, but the inside's really left.
It's down at the boat wrecking area.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought it was a bit disappointing, actually. I thought if they painted the inside, it would have made them.
Yeah.
No, I'm just curious. They haven't done it.
No.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so taking those points into account, we will receive the information from the Reserve Community Triennial Plan, accept and support the triennial plan with the exception there, and endorse the reserve schedule as well. If I can, we've got a mover from Asif. Who's the seconder there? Luana. Any debate? All those in favour? Aye. Or against? That's carried. Thanks so much. Lovely to see you, Heather.
Thank you.
All the best to you for this summer as well. Like I said, it's going to be a great one.
Oh, and I meant to say that I talked to Tyler and he was on his way here.
He's on his way here. Fantastic. Yep. No, earlier through osmosis. Okay. We just have a little look, see where we're up to, so we can figure out where best to put you, Tyler.
That's just Stephen.
Okay, we've got Lisa, is it? Yes. How are you going for time to work? Okay, no, we'll invite you up, if that's okay. Lisa's from Burners Flat Community Centre, and we're here to staff. Oh, your staff.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
so I don't mind waiting if you've got other people.
No, it's just yourself for the day. Right, we're talking about the storage sheds.
Yes, so Birdlings Flat Community Centre, needing extra space. They really want to make use of all the rooms in the centre. And for them to be able to provide the services they'd like, they need more space to store everything. So it's still within the lease area, and we've put a few restrictions on it, but we're just looking for landowner consent or landlord consent to allow them to have these storage sheds, please, because they do such wonderful work.
They did right.
Yeah.
I think storage has been needed for a while.
Yeah.
And
there's already one there, but yeah, they need.
Comments or questions?
Sorry. So they put one on. So
It was
no. Retrofitting the approval.
No. The original one that's been there the whole time. It had approval.
Right.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff gets stored in all these sheds?
It would be, I know that they, tables and chairs, because currently they go into a spare room and they're using the big hall. But that smaller, not spare room, the smaller room, they would like to be able to have services run out of there, like nurse or financial services or Plunkett or, have people come over to utilise the room, but currently it's full of stuff. And I know that they put on a wonderful Christmas thing each year for all the community to come along. They like Easter and all that. They seem to put on quite a lot for the community. So.
Oh, the Christmas grotto.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So they do good work.
Great. All right, unless there's any other burning questions?
I'll move it.
Yeah, Rosemary, I'll second it, if that's okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Yes, carried. Thank you so much for your time, Lisa.
Thank you. I'll go do my inspections.
Thank you. Thank you. Tyler, come on up. How's it going? Did you make it out okay?
Yeah, good.
No incident? Okay, good.
No, a couple of tractors on the way. But...
Yep. Standard.
Yeah, keep daisy.
Cool.
Yeah, because you're talking to us about the youth and multicultural portfolio update.
Yeah. Tēnā rā katoa. He uri tēnei no Ngātahu, no Ngāti Kuro, no Te Autauki, ko Tyler Harris Kantokuina. I'm Tyler. I'm the councillor for Riccarton. Unfortunately, I tried to get me into this board, but because it's Paradise. But unfortunately, an urban area couldn't actually be added to this one. But I am here based on my two portfolios, multiculturalism and youth. I've talked to us before about quite a few things, actually. We didn't get much over the line. But now that I've got some organisation and a great plan forward, we can start developing some things around that. Just a bit of a background, the Multicultural Committee and the Youth Committee, Te Whakakari, were both disestablished in 2022. And what the Mayor decided to do was to create portfolios to try and fill that void. There was a few growing pains going throughout the portfolios because we didn't really know what they meant. Now we sort of do. Earlier on in the year, we sort of defined the terms of reference for the portfolios. But what that means is it means that each portfolio holder gets to decide how or when they implement certain things. So there's currently, on top of my head, I have 6 portfolios. I hold 2 of those, and they're of a broad range. So youth for the whole city of Christchurch, including Banks Peninsula, and multiculturalism for both Banks Peninsula and Christchurch. So what I wanted to do is collate all the board priorities that sit outside of your current board priorities. So you'll bring priorities to the council through big T, little t at the council table, and push for those priorities to be implemented into the annual plan. So this is actually going into the annual plan to get in early. We are seeing around close to a 9.8% rates rise in this next financial year. Yeah, it's pretty significant. So the things that I'm asking for are pretty basic and based on the current economic climate, are pretty basic and straightforward. What I'm asking for is one board priority for the youth portfolio and one board priority for multiculturalism that sits outside of your current portfolio, current board priorities. They can be capital projects that are already on budget. I recommend those because it's easier to win politically with those. But if they are going to be new capital projects, then they'll need to be pushed out into the 2028 onwards years, which I'm only thinking of some things that are actually attainable, because if we came with everything, obviously we won't win everything. The Banks Peninsula Board holds a quite significant portfolio in capital projects, particularly around environmentalism and climate change, sustainability, and actually coastal inundation. The portfolio is in the hundreds of millions over the next 10 years, which is actually going to be great for Banks Peninsula. But one hole that I noticed was missing around all of the boards was emphasis on young people in multicultural communities. So that's why I'm here today, to just answer any questions and also provide some assurance that I'm wanting to back behind Tyrone and actually push forward some priorities which you would like through youth and multicultural portfolios.
Okay. No doubt we've got questions.
Hi, Kathy.
Yeah, I completely support that, because in Littleton, their youth program for this term got cancelled because they had no funding. And it was, wasn't much, but it was very sad that they had to do that, and they couldn't even get funding from LPC. I mean, LPC has been supporting them, but
Is that
it's very unfortunate, yes. And they have been, it's been very intermittent for the youth.
Community house. At community house?
No,
Rec
not
centre?
at the rec centre, but community house has been supporting. So I just thought it was quite basic, but they did run it this term.
Was funding withdrawn or?
I don't know. I felt like they had to get funding each term, and so this term they were like staff there and no funding. It was very sad to see. No, and just other things that I'm sure we can support the youth, youth in the area.
Sorry.
Were there any specific things that you kind of identified, like opportunities, and maybe in the multicultural space as well? Because, I mean, Banks Peninsula isn't exactly known for its multiculturalism, if I'm brutally honest. So I'm just kind of keen to know what sort of things that you've seen and identified. You don't necessarily need to answer that now.
Sure. The long-term established residents, obviously, there's a majority of them who come from New Zealand descent, but this is a tourist hub, and something that actually could be celebrated is actually the beauty of Banks Peninsula in the area. When we're talking from a multicultural standpoint, I think funding is usually the biggest one in the multicultural space, and capital investment. So, for example, in Riccarton, I've got quite a lot of unsolicited proposals from different groups, about 5 in the millions, which means that there may be some land which is surplus, where there may be a community group that is asking for some assistance or backing. If they are financially sustainable and feasible, we just need some land to put some stuff on for community wellbeing. The multicultural portfolio spans across a wide range, so that's from the Asians, the Africans, and also ones who are second generations here, trying to find some identity. So if it has anything to do with identity, I think that aligns really well. But usually it's funding and capital. Those are the two major holes and parts within this. And I'm so glad Banks Peninsula is the first I get to come to.
It's great that you can come out and ask
thank you. Thank you very much. We have had intense discussion on this topic a number of times, and finally we are here. So this is really good news. In Accra, Banks Peninsula, in general, and Accra especially, we have so many people from different parts of the world. My wee girl, 5-year-old, she's got 7 nationalities in her class 11 in class.
Well, that's very interesting.
So that is coming a big thing. So we are, the Accra community is kind of moving from biculturalism to multiculturalism, so to celebrate various things. And we had a recently good event. Halloween was celebrated all around town, and it was a good facility. And in terms of investment in this space, so one is obviously the capital investment. They have asked to a couple of people in Accra, so they were interested in the idea. And I know a number of people, they work in this space. Recently, a new group has been formed, Accra for Peace. So their members are multinational, French and UK and Kiwi as well. So there are a few organizations, they are doing the same work what you are doing, but we have different heads, small capacity. There's an art council on Banks Indo-Ocean, so they do some similar work as well. So I will take this message and I will forward it on, and I think there is a good potential that Banks Peninsula could lead this in collaboration with the Multicultural Center in Christchurch. So a lot of people in Accra does not know of that facility and vice versa. So they would complement one another. It's good. Yeah. It's a very good initiative. Thank you, Tama, for that.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. Thank you all so much.
Yeah. Thanks for coming all the way out and talking face to face. And
can I just another
very quickly?
question?
Yep.
So Tyler, like in terms of like the annual plan, so are you kind of, what's your strategy there, like in terms of funding bids and that sort of stuff? Are you sort of like going to sort of do a kind of a global funding bid for your portfolios on the annual plan after feedback from the different community boards, or you're going to kind of try and, do you know what I mean, or try and help community boards put funding bids in for various projects, or you know, what's that going to look like?
Yeah, I can tell you that. So I'm hoping to have 12 after all of the boards. I'm doing a tour. After the 12 priorities are collated, 6 for youth, 6 for multicultural, I'm wanting to do 2 things. One of them is provide a report based on those bids to put to council to then vote on. If it's not there's no rates impact between the next annual plan, I'm actually envisaging that would be positive and fine. For ones that have a bit more substantial capital impact, I think those are the ones that we're going to have to really look at, obviously through the council and through Tyrone. But the other opportunity that I'm using quite a lot is actually using internal capacity. And I've found that I've gotten a lot of the stuff over the line that doesn't need to be in the forefront is more beneficial. So if we're able to work through operations, through staff, to be able to change those things, it's a lot more sustainable for one, and 2, it's actually a lot more attainable. So we don't need to go and tell the world we've done this amazing stuff. What we can do is we can say this is what we can do. Can we do this internally? If we can't, we'll have to go to ANP. So it's a 2-step process. Can we do it internally? Yes or no? If no, it goes into the bidding process. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I guess from a board perspective, now you need to hear feedback. What would be the best way, getting advice from staff to do that? Is that directly to you? Do we correlate it here? Do we send it individually from emails to you? How do you want it?
That's a great question. I think those who are emailed me, it's very difficult. It takes a long time to answer.
If it's going to be a board answer,
yes, that's kind of what I want to know.
Come through
the board,
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have essentially your priorities, board priorities, and then the multicultural and youth will sit within that, but they'll need to be separated, so I can add that to it separately.
Okay.
If that's okay. It's the easiest way to do it.
Yes,
and if you'd like to actually meet in person, go through Mabel. Unfortunately, she shut at 11 o'clock in my calendar.
Oh, okay.
But go through Mabel if you want to catch up at Hereford. I can definitely do that. But I'll be working through Tyrone mostly around how we can get some things over the line and work through the councillors to get some good stuff through.
Brilliant.
All right, we'll have a little talk amongst ourselves to figure out how we can work that out as a board. Go through the process properly so that you can use it.
Yes, it's quite significant. So thank you so much for taking the time. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming and seeing us.
It's good because it's not that, sorry.
Would have already put in the feedback into the draft annual plan on Friday. So it would have to go into the board's submission.
Yeah.
Sorry, does it have to be in the annual plan, because this could work in conjunction with that? You know, do we have time?
Good question. That's what I think Liz was saying. We only had time to put it into, I don't even know when the oral submissions are going to be. You know?
March.
Isn't there some in
Oh,
November?
you mean the feedback?
The
board feedback into the annual plan.
Right.
Is mid-November.
Okay, still haven't done that. Oh, but the oral, that's in March. Okay, so we have time.
Yeah, so for that, but for this, do we have, do we meet another, or just?
Work with staff about how we can figure that out.
Sorry, staff.
Yeah.
As long as you're orally submitting or through written submission, it's actually there. I'll be able to utilise that to provide the report based on the portfolio. I know the feedback's already in.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's remembering it's a draft annual plan, so things change.
Yeah.
But March is the very, very last. I mean, before February would be fantastic, so I can collate it.
Okay.
Right.
February.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we will work on that.
Thank you so much, everyone.
I mean, it's a great opportunity, and we would like to be involved. So we'll see what we can do.
Great. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Take your time. Okay, so that discretionary response fund applications. Is that where we're up to? Yes, I should know. Okay, Steffi. Hey, Steffi, thanks for being on board. Then we've got Jane. Thanks, Helen. And Jane is with us as well. Talk us through this if you don't mind.
So we've got 4 different applications here. So 2 of them from the Little River area, or one's going to say one's Little River Farmers Market and Akarai Area School as well. If you have any questions, happy to answer them. Otherwise, it's really
take it as good. So on page 67, for those who are making their way there. Yep. Far away, Howard.
100% supportive, obviously. Sorry, the blast program, obviously. You know, it sounds cool. Yeah, no doubt. Good idea. Run by the police and the education department. Why they need money? Don't they support themselves? You got a physical trainer here, it's $600. I would have thought cops were pretty much good at training people to run and jump and do that. So you're going to do it that one? I'm just curious. I mean, I support it, obviously, no problems with it. I'm just curious why we, you know.
Cool. So the New Zealand Police has indicated it doesn't have funding for a project like this, but the community police officer has been really proactive in community building, so he wants to prioritise it. And it takes place outside of school time, so it wouldn't be covered by the Ministry of Education. Yep.
That's a question.
I just want to add, this is, I was told a week ago that 24 students have signed up for that program. So as they were expecting half a dozen, maybe a dozen next month. So that's a good take on from the community.
So a very good program, not much to do in it,
Cool.
I mean, this speaks directly to like what we've just heard from Thailand. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's. I mean, I take Howard's point, but
Oh, no, I got nothing against it. Hey, I don't have given. I'm just curious how come police are doing it and don't get paid. Yeah, that's what I was just curious about. But as far as 1,800, I think 100% go for it.
It's kind of like the opaque world of funding is kind of like it's sort of you kind of just got to scramble it together in different ways, and the cops will do it. They'll run it for you, and
well, especially if you're getting 24 kids for $1,800, it's quite good money for value as far as and anything that gets kids off the ground. Yes. And get some running around and off the ice.
Yes, right.
And
Yes, we
most,
can-
most of the money here is for certificates and prize giving and t-shirts and travel.
Oh, you got to have t-shirts and hats.
It's 5 by Bailey's rings too. We get loads of money.
So I got the t-shirt.
Oh, that's good. What else we got there?
That's fine. It's on the AED. What's AED?
Oh, AED, yeah.
Defibrillator.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
I have a question about AD. Those AD comes, they are one use, single use. Once you use the pads, you can't reuse them. So you have to buy them, and those pads are a couple of $100 for every defibrillator and every single use. And I have spoken with Fens, St. John. They don't seem to own those. It just comes down to communities, and then communities that don't have money, so they end up here. Is there a system at the council level around to fund something that is so critical to our communities?
So, what was the question again? Sorry, I was
funding the AEDs.
Yeah.
AEDs pads, they can only be used once, and they are expensive to buy. And most of these defibrillators are owned by communities like this one, 2,000. They will buy, and then the pads will cost them at least $250, $300 after they're used. So who is going to? Is there a system to fund those at the council level?
Well, the short answer is I don't know. And it's probably a question for staff more than this for me.
I wouldn't think there is.
Yeah.
I'd say if they came to this board with a request for $300 to replace the funds, because I say to like,
Yeah,
100% support it.
Yeah.
Like we just, like, I mean, if people need
okay.
a replenishment, I mean, it's a case by case merits based
Yeah,
conversation.
one community, they asked me, and then recently it was used in Accra recreation grant, and that who is going to pay for those? It was a funny situation, so I asked them to come here. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
We've always supported these things.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of an issue here because I understand about the pads, so you've used them, so you go and buy pads, but our DRE was not respected. So there have to be some other system.
How do you mean?
I'll put a funding together so they can just draw on that funding when they need it. And, yeah.
Why don't they already have a backup here, a backup set?
No, they don't. So they come, every AD comes with one pad. So.
But what I'm saying is, why don't they have an initial backup so that when it gets used, they can immediately use it again, and also they're not applying retrospectively. They would be applying then for their backup.
Yeah.
Pads each
Okay, so for example, this one here, that Little River is asking for an AED plus backup pads as the DRS, so that would be kind of the standard whenever staff are talking to communities who are looking for it, that would be the case, just to note.
Yeah, I guess they do expire as well.
Oh, the pads expire.
Depending on the brand, 4 to 5 years.
So yeah, potentially they will be yes.
Okay.
It's the battery.
Could we get some advice from the people who produce the AEDs, how to deal with ongoing maintenance? Can we, is that okay? Can we get someone onto that?
Oh, that'd love a contract.
No.
I'll go around and replace them all.
Maybe not that much of ongoing maintenance, but obviously this has probably been happening before. What have they suggested to other places to manage this?
Just question to council. Can these be put on, say, the council maintenance schedule? So that,
So the assets not owned by council.
Yeah.
It could be that we do something like at the start of each board's term, that the board gives approval for staff delegation to purchase a new set of pads from using your DRM. Maybe we could do something like that, so kind of have it each term, set it up, so you've given approval for pads to be replaced as needed for these community AEDs when they're utilised. What about that? And then it doesn't need to be at the whole report, it saves all that admin time and time. and we can just report it back through the area report to you. So we can set that up shortly for the rest of your term now.
And we could put it in the send money aside.
Yeah.
And that strengthen communities.
Or the DRE, yeah, the DRE, oh, yeah, to come out of DRE.
Yeah, so we could make it a permanent rolling over thing.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be good. Because I'm on good saying I'm on call. If someone close by has an heart attack, I could respond. But for that, I need to know that this tells me that there is a defibrillator there, but it doesn't tell me that it is in functional current. So I would be running down, grab it, and then it's patient not there.
Yeah.
So basically, my response or anyone else response, it's a wasted time. And so at the moment, Accra recreation ground, it doesn't have the pads. Winery, they were used. They asked me, and I don't know if they have replaced it. So two that I know on top of my head.
Okay. Could you send an email through to?
So who looks after the Akaroa one?
It was the bowling club, croquet club.
Okay, so someone is obviously in charge of the AED, and they need to have their own system for making sure that they do that.
Yeah.
And they,
So
and also they need to have a system, wouldn't it, as if to put on, I've got the app for the AED locators here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They need to put a note in that AED locator,
so
don't
quite a lot of those there. Not every defib is registered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the community know, but I know because I have seen it. It is not in the system, but I can run and grab it and use it.
Would we expect, as a board, would you expect them to be registered so that they're on the app for everyone to use?
Yes.
So that would be part of the expectation of the funding.
So registered in good saying would be a good start, and then allocate some funding for that. That would be amazing.
Okay.
And even the correct person, they can contact the council to get replacement pairs.
Yeah, well, they'll
So that would be
Yeah.
This must be an issue.
Oh, sorry, I've just got, Jane's got a finger up and then we'll go to Gillian, sorry. You need to off mute, Jane. Okay, well, Jane, while you thought Gillian was following up with something.
I mean, it's an issue throughout the city, but throughout the country. So we shouldn't need to reinvent the wheel unless there's no wheel invented in the first place. But
what is the standard operating?
So standard operator is the owner maintains the pads. So if
and
you
that's
own
the
it,
problem we have.
So
We'll go to Jane. Jane's got something.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. The sound is really bad today, and I took my headset off because it's actually better to listen through the computer, but obviously the audio wasn't working, so I'm back to the headset. Yeah, I was just going to say a couple of points. As part of this application, the Little River Wairua Community Trust are going to offer defibrillator training. I know in Birdlings Flat and other places that they are, as part of their community emergency response planning, are offering defibrillator and CPR training. Sarah, the manager of the trust who spoke earlier, she's a first responder in Little River. So the communities are aware of just having, not just to have these things there, but to have the capacity within the community to be able to use them. Yeah, and just the other point I was going to make was that in my 5.5 years here, I'm not aware of any of the community defibrillators being used, so it's not a really common thing. But I think the groups would be really happy to hear that there's a backup pads option there available for them.
Two defibrillators in Little River.
Yeah, one's up at the Coogee Valley and the other one is with the first responders, so that's not accessible.
School and fire station both have.
Yeah.
Do we know where they are around the peninsula?
Yeah. So if they have registered with a good SAM, then yes, you can look at it on my phone here where they are, and it tells you.
Do you have a link?
Yeah. So
There's an app.
There is an app. Okay. That's very good discussion about AEDs, but we could be tending towards a rabbit hole there.
Well, I was just thinking, that there's an opportunity for us to just fill in the gaps a little bit, isn't there?
Yeah, so maybe emergency response planning, that could be part of like a discussion with staff and Rachel about having those registered. So I think that's noted. Yeah,
and this could sit alongside the need for funding for establishing community hubs and communications around emergency management. This could sit as one of those items as well.
Yeah. So that's covering that concern about not knowing where they are and are they being maintained. So that's good talk. All right, so we've talked a fair bit about the AED blast, Burley State Creative Hub and the inverter generator for the market. So unless there's any other questions, I think we'll move on to where we're at. Where are we at?
Move.
Oh yes, moving to go. So who would like to?
I will move.
Well, yeah, there's one last question.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say, well, I mean, and you're best placed to answer this, Lynn, but the farmers market obviously is running reasonably well now.
Yeah, from what I understand. Yeah. Doing better every year.
The fact that they're asking for this is.
And what I like about
I was going to
it could be used for the emergency response planning as well. So that could be noted as a resource for the community to use in an emergency.
I was going to make the comment at the farmers market, they've got a really sensible business plan and working towards total financial independence, and talking with them, they think they're about 4 stalls away from being able to achieve that. Obviously, any profit that they make goes back to the community. They're a not-for-profit, and probably this year with an increase in stalls, that will be the last that we would hear from them. But they're working slowly and carefully rather than getting overloaded, and I think it's quite a smart business approach.
That's great, Jane. Thank you. Yeah. Very good to hear.
Awesome. So we've got our stuffs moving. May I have a second, please? Gillian, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? It's carried. Thank you so much.
I want a t-shirt.
You want a t-shirt? You will have to join the blast program.
My physical is not quite 21 jumps too.
All right, so we've got the area report next. Thanks, Dane, for that. Really appreciate your help. Yeah, all good work. Yeah.
Thank you. Plenty of good reading in here about what the development advisors are doing. I'd like to point out item 3.2.2, which is your Better Off funding grant you made to the Diamond Harbour Community Board driveway and drainage project, just to let you know that that work will be carried out, delivered by the council. So we're just changing, instead of giving it to the Hall Association, it will be held by council for the same piece of work.
Okay.
And they're super excited about that. Happy to answer any questions. Staff are generally online and available if there are questions for them.
No, that has been really good. A lot of activity. Yeah, thank you. No questions. Just grateful for your work.
No, fantastic.
Yeah.
All pretty well covered off there, and huge amounts of work going on there. Really encouraging to see those projects moving forward, and everything that we are involved in at the community level as well. Fantastic. Right. So can I get a mover for that? Accept that. Asif, seconder. Luana, all those in favour? Against? It's carried to accept those. Thank you very much. Cool. Yeah. Elected members info exchange. So this is where we can include any reserve committee meetings we've been to in regards to what we've been up to as well. Just reminding people that this is not where you bring up CSR actions or resolutions that are made. It's basically in regards to liaising with groups, important community issues, and any council committee decisions. Luana.
Just want to acknowledge the Bradley Park Fair. First year I haven't been able to go, so that, I think I saw a photo of you there.
Me?
Tyrone, yes, yeah.
I'm never one to miss a photo of Peninsula.
That was at the Governor's Bakery, sorry?
Auckland Bradley Park.
Bradley Park.
Also just amusing really, noticing increased traffic in the mornings and throughout the weekends really. Development that's going on around the peninsula, looking at the coastal hazards adaptation plan, how that increases our pollution, I suppose, our infrastructure needs. Really busy. It's probably the busiest I've ever seen in my entire life living here. Also increasing things like motorcyclists, vehicles on the road and around policing as well, and what that looks like moving forward. Yeah, just really notice the wear and tear on the roads. Split coming through. Good discussion. But you're just evolving. Amazing, really.
Yeah.
I think so.
No, I agree. So I think this, like I said, summer's going to be busy. Good. Tyrone.
Yes. So I'm just trying to think through the things.
We can come back to you if you like.
No, that's all right. I'll whiz through what I've got in front of me. So, in no particular order, I'll start off with cruise ship days in Littleton. They all seem to be going well in my observation. ECAN have put on a whole bunch of extra buses for what they deem to be high-risk days. If you haven't caught wind of that. I personally thought that's over-egging the omelette, but I mean, it's ECAN's money and they can spend it how they want, so that's fine. I think that in general, the stakeholders have been really engaged in trying to get good outcomes for Littleton on cruise ship days, so we watch this space. Littleton Harbour Business Association, I'm the liaison person for it, so sorry, it's me. Sorry, I've got so many committees, I just forget sometimes. They just had their AGM and have just appointed or voted in the new chair for their committee. It was Sabrina Saunders, who runs and does a magnificent job at the Naval Point Yacht Club. So it's a really exciting development there. We'll be doing some really good work. I just went to the Pivot Cottage Garden Party a couple of weekends ago, Robinson's Bay. Just talking to a few locals there. There's a few things going on Robinson's Bay, but we didn't talk about that stuff. We just talked about Pivot Cottage, which is just it's just transferred from a private trust into a charitable trust. So it's quite a significant step there. Now that trust are very keen to, and obviously Suki's come and seen us at this board before, to somehow procure some of the land that abuts onto the Pivot Cottage site because of its historical value. So we just had a bit of a chat about that. So I think that's a good aspiration for them to have, and something that, and this is my personal opinion, I would be supportive of. But that's the process that needs to sort of happen. I just had a day strategy meeting I'm on the Rod Donald Trust, so we had we went through a whole kind of appointments process for new trustees on the board earlier this year. We appointed five new trustees, and so we've just been getting them bedded in, and we had a strategy panel with the whole team, all 10 of us, I think, on last Thursday up at Kaituna Homestead. Beautiful up there. God, it was 26 degrees. It was absolutely stunning. And just planning on what the Rod Donald Trust is planning on doing in the next year, 2-3 years, just around sort of providing accessibility to the peninsula and to groups on the peninsula to be able to do their thing. In terms of creating recreational opportunities, and so it's just something for us to be mindful of. I mean, it's a fairly well-resourced trust, and it's something, it's a partner that we do need to work closely alongside of. One of the projects that's kind of top of mind for the Rod Donald Trust at the moment is an accessibility pathway here in Little River that the Little River Wairua Trust Community Trust are actually looking at. that you know all about, Lynn. So that's something that we want to keep sort of top of mind as well. What the community aspiration is there in connecting different parts of this village. It's just popped up on my calendar that the Hilda Frame Reserve sign is being unveiled today, Howard. That's something for us to be excited about. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely.
Just literally popped up just as I was talking. I thought you'd be happy about that. That was good.
It's only took 6 years.
Rest assured, some of the kids that came to that deputation are still at school.
Not after 6 years.
No, it was three, wasn't it? So that's really good to see. No doubt you'll have all seen the news about there's a couple of issues going on with down at Heathcote at the moment, but they're kind of important to sort of Banks Peninsula residents because they both impact on the ability to be able to bike from Heathcote into the city and commute. Because I don't know if you've been on it, but there's a magnificent cycleway, the Heathcote Expressway, goes from Heathcote all the way into pretty much town. So the rail crossing thing, you would have all seen the issues around that. Yes. So there was obviously a big protest in the weekend, community protest, and so I've never seen anything where Simeon Brown, the mayor, all the lefty councillors, and all the communities everywhere said, "This is a really dumb idea. Let's just." Do you know what I mean? It's like, wow. If everyone's saying that, then that's there must be something wrong there. But also are we aware of what's happening with the bikes on buses as well? So for people in Akaroa might not be so aware of it. You're up to speed with it, Asif?
Yeah.
So basically, there's been a directive that bikes can no longer go on bike racks on public buses.
Which is probably for 2 years.
Yeah.
So the same. They're going to close for 2 years.
No, exactly. So it's interesting that you should say that because for some reason it's really easy to get those two things conflated, but they're actually two separate issues. Okay. Yeah, one's about a rail crossing in Heathcote, and the other's about being able to get through to Heathcote, or being able to put a bike on a bus.
It's actually nationwide as well.
Yeah, it's being nationwide. Initially, it was supposed to be just over from a certain time at night, and that's what ECAN's directive was, but it's been superseded by a national directive, which is to say no bikes on bike racks on buses at any time. So that's been met with a bit of consternation. NZTA, yep.
And the motor.
So yeah, so these are kind of all a bit sort of weird sorts of things kind of happening that people are a bit struggling to understand. Long story short, ECAN have come to the party again. By supplying essentially a shuttle.
Yeah.
I was thinking I was going to call it a ferry, a shuttle van. Well, it's a good move. It's expensive.
To get the bikes to the tunnel.
Must be all that funding they're getting with this 25% increase.
That's right.
They run on the smell of an oily rag, really, don't, unfortunately. They do. Coronation Library, we've ticked off again, but soon we see stuff happening there, the better.
Yeah, I'll bring that up too.
Really, and what else did I want to say? Oh, coastal hazards adaptation planning. So that's obviously out for consultation at the moment. I did attend a community meeting in Governor's Bay last Monday. 40 plus people there. So people and even some, things actually got quite heated at certain stages. People really care about this stuff. So it's really important that we get that right and that we're listening when we go through the hearings. So I won't say too much more about that because that'll do for now. Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
What's going on?
Howard, how you been?
I'm pretty good. Actually, the only thing I really had was a bikes. Concerned about the bikes. That's pretty cool.
All right. Thank you. Gillian.
I've heard a couple of things about the remote reserve. Although one was over Labour weekend, we had a bit of rain, more than we usually have. And then, that I think kind of did get resolved in the short term. So it was like a resident saying, hey, the trail here been up there and it was super slippery. It's a new one. And, but the Reserves Committee did respond to that and said they're monitoring that and have got plans to keep looking at it and make sure it ends up being good quality.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, and just as to say, just yesterday also, something else about track location, again, so some communication between a different resident actually and the Reserve Committee, so about kind of future planning, well, there's been planning already, but just communication, ongoing communication about track, any new tracks and things going in. So, yep. So it looks like that's the communication is happening, which seems to be the main thing. I think that needs to keep going all the time. Yeah. And other than that, I also received an email from a resident about her concern about, especially to do with the amount of pro-Palestinian, but more specifically, if there's pro-Hamas signage and things around Liverton. So she was asking what could be done about that, and she has sent some information to Community Board, and I've followed that up with Liz in terms of what can or cannot be done from a council perspective.
Okay, noted. Thank you. Better slide that will refer to the office of the stadium.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you. Was that your lot, Julian?
Yes.
Good. Kathy?
Great to hear that the Casper mirrors are coming back on safety. And
they are?
Yes. Well, yeah. The community got rather active on that one. November 5th acknowledged the Parihaka commemoration, so they did pilgrimage or a tour to Ripapa Island over the weekend. So yeah, a lot happened past weekend. Casper had the Halloween community party. That was a lot of fun. Community patrol are getting quite active in the space of knowing that there's legislation around anti-road social users. So they will have a meeting with the local Peninsula MP and just see how they could encourage, basically give, encourage to give more teeth to the police to do things about antisocial. So I can update Tyrone, and Tyrone must already know, but they were interested to get your input as well. Yes. Emergency hub stuff. The expo was really exciting in Littleton. I think it went down really well. I think one of the highlights for me at the expo was seeing the energy transition put up their posters and saying, not if, but when a disaster, and how do we become prepared? How do we become, how do we do it if something happens as a community? Bumped into this doctor that lived in the West Coast and Cyclone Gabriel, and he says he just wanted to acknowledge the good things that the council are doing. However, there is space around rural spaces and wildlife, or just more rural stuff. So just quite happy to talk over coffee or something, but just in terms of getting more liaison, collaborative type of discussions. On the night that they had the coastal stuff, we had the Summit Road Protection Authority, and they brought along some early fire detector units to show us and explain how it all works and stuff. So that was really exciting. Fans and were there as well. Know Your Space, the group that came to present, that's happening November 23rd, 24th, so they're publicising that in Littleton. And just lastly, went to the Tourism Summit. The highlight for me, James Shaw, was they're talking about regenerative tourism. The regional tourist RTOs were there, similar issues to us, got their destination management, what do they do, how it affects them, where's their funding, same story. So it's good to have been, you know, amongst that and hear things. And yeah, biodiversity was well covered there. Doc was there, talking about their lack of funding and having to do a lot of work. And again, collaboration with other groups. And that's about it. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you. My turn. Yeah. I've got 5 items. As Harry presented this morning, ECRA and the Best Emergency Response Team asking for resources, and the group has also presented in the LTP for funding allocation for similar setup on Peninsula, and this was also part of board presentation at the LTP submission. And our local MP, Vanessa, she also wrote a letter to the council supporting, asking for funding allocation and support activities like what Harry and his team are doing. So that's a good, that they have completed, you know, first draft. The survey that I was running for chorus, I shared with everyone this morning. So there are some significant concerns and questions that communities have raised, and staff hopefully will be forwarding those to relevant department at chorus. And I asked community members who haven't submitted, so please let me know, and I'll put your concern in the same list. And also, if you can put a submission or deputation to the board on the same day, that is November 25th. Fire detection funding. So as Kathy mentioned, they have visited Gaspé and they showed them fire detectors, and those detectors were really helpful in detecting fire. And the cost of those detectors like 50,000 for 3 years. So the team, Offense and Smart City team, they visited Accra and they have identified 4 locations in Accra, but they say that we don't have enough money to do all 4 at this stage. So that's why I asked all of you in my email to support this and include this in the annual plan so that we could get some funding. The cost of February fire, I checked, I got this estimate from Fence, it was 3.9 million to fight that fire in February that I was part of myself, my team. We did 3 days there as volunteer, but the amount of aircrafts and, you know, that cost the council 3.9 million. It's a lot more as compared to 250,000 they will spend to monitor that region. So the technology is amazing. Even, you know, you could see everything live and you can plan accordingly. You can save time in doing so.
Excuse me, so with my other hat on, that's a sign of the Summit Road Protection Authority.
Yep.
They have seen the sensor, and we are going to arrange for the fire sensor.
Yes.
Just the actual sensor itself.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, brilliant. So, so I have seen the technology myself. So that is an amazing how it works. In Australia, that has been very effective, that technology. So coastal hazard adaptation plan, although the consultation is on Littleton side, but there are concerns in the Accra because what people are seeing is that number of properties are potentially vulnerable in certain areas, meaning that insurance companies will use that excuse to raise their premium. And we have seen nationally that there has been a significant increase in insurance cover. They cover less and cost more now in response to that. So hopefully council has a plan B or in terms of mitigating those, or how or insurance ombudsman or something to keep an eye on insurance companies that they don't use these excuses or these plans being used to raise council insurance cover for businesses and residents alike. So we can influence that through our annual plan submission, I hope. And I went to with Kathy TIA conference, Tourism Summit in Auckland on behalf of Nigel. He couldn't go. Learned quite a lot from destination management plans to future aspirations of TIA and Tourism NZ, and how they are promoting Banks Peninsula, Christchurch in general, and New Zealand in particular, to overseas visitors. So there's been a significant change in demography of tourists who will be visiting these various destinations. So Kathy and I hopefully will prepare a small presentation and share it with you. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Great, thank you, Asa. Fantastic. And finishing up with Wariwa in my community board chair hat on. So we had the Little River annual community breakfast just recently, and it was lovely to be through. And about 250 people turned up, which was actually quite a bit less than last year, but it was a bit of a rainy morning, so that does say something. It's always such an amazing array of food, and it's great to catch up with people that you see all the time, and great to catch up with people that you only see every now and then. So it's that opportunity for everybody just to get together and we could eat and touch base. But also it was used as a good opportunity to hear from people about the Little River big ideas. So that's still an ongoing process. They had a board there with the sticky notes, and there was hundreds of sticky notes at the end of the morning, and it was really, I think a lot of people felt like it was very good engagement. So great breakfast all around. Waitaha Primary Health. So Waitaha Primary Health is an organisation that I'm allocated to. I don't actually report back very often, but I need to do that more. So it's a good reminder about reserve committees and places that we're allocated to. So it's quite focused on the rural health in our area. So they're a rural health provider to sort of your doctors and your GPs, and they support them and get funding from different places for ceasing smoking and stuff like that. So they were a big part of the health hui that went around the Peninsula just recently. And the other areas that they want to get involved in a little bit is sort of maybe the emergency response planning side of it as well. So I'm working with the CEO in regards to how that might work. So there's a lot of questions around what do people do if they can't access their GP, if they are away from doctors during an emergency response, but it's not as desperate as needing first responders. So that's quite a good area that they may be able to work with and be able to help out the peninsula in that way. And Kaituna Valley Atahua Reserve Committee. So they're winding down their part of what they do. They will still be looking after the reserve, but as far as the hall, they're working with staff about winding that down. And there is potentially still a possibility, if they reported back at their last Christmas event that they had, which was Red Cross Christmas event, but they had up to 200 people that were there. So we were sure, like, okay, so there might be some community interest still. So we're just trying to figure out what that might mean. Coronation Library still all on the docket, working, obviously hearing from Sarah this morning that there is a lot of people who are expecting to have a place to do good community work from by now. And so just figuring out how we do that and support that as a community board. And that's all I just reported to council on Wednesday with my chair hat on, and just throwing in a few extra bits and pieces in there about the annual plan, especially around, what did I talk about? Flooding mitigation, tennis pavilions, and what was that one?
Oh no, I was just agreeing. Like, yeah,
there was a third one.
Came out and laid it down.
Laid it down at the table. Talking about the Banks Peninsula. Sorry? DMP. Oh, Destination Management, but yes, that was very relevant for this morning. Yes. So that's what I'm about to.
Sorry, asking a couple of questions. For course, do you know how many Banks Peninsula residents are still on the copper line?
I don't know, but I know the area.
They are coming at the 25th.
Yeah.
They are booked in. So taking note of that question, that's a really good question to ask.
Yeah.
And also around fireworks season, there've been a few comments about people still, and luckily it's been quite green this year, but it seems to be a thing leading right up to New Year's Eve, with people still let off fireworks. I know there is something in legislation around, there's a time period that you can do that, but is there some way we can get that message out more to people, just around safety?
Sure, yes. You could go on Facebook pages and remind the community.
I thought the legislation was only about selling and stuff.
Yeah, a period that you can let them off.
Not off the top of my head. It's a good one to, sure, Tyrone.
Yeah, I just had a couple of other things that I sort of.
Just quickly, because we do have a hard out with the.
Super fast.
With the
Also, I went to the Pōwhiri at Rākaihautū last month as well to celebrate the opening of the start of the Antarctic season, which is really important. Like, it reminds us how important our port is. It's in our port area to, not only to, like, our ability to import and export and security of supply, but also to the scientific community, and that we're an Antarctic gateway. So many important things happening in this ward, and that's just another string to the bow there. It would be remiss of me not to mention the community meeting in Akaroa about the wastewater treatment plant. 100 people turning up, right? Like, okay, so we can argue the toss about different sets of numbers and who's right and who's wrong and blah blah blah. And it shouldn't really be about that. The point is that there is, there is significant community concern. I do really worry about staff in this regard. Like, the staff are working really, really hard to get this right. And so I think that it's important for us to know, that it's important to get these two things reconciled. Make sure that we advocate for a laser sharp focus on I&I, like inundation and infiltration in the Akaroa stormwater or wastewater system, and just things like that. And there was a deputation at council as well, not that long after. It was last week, with Harry, who was here earlier, and Mike Norris from the Civic Trust as well. They came and presented to council. And again, don't want to get into the sort of the ins and outs of the data being presented, but there is a reconciliation that needs to be happened between these 2 points, and we've just got to be mindful of that, because we cannot afford to get this wrong. So that's just bubbling away. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that, incredibly, I got the mayor in Littleton for 3 hours a couple of weeks ago and managed to show him a few things, just mainly about how the town centre of Littleton's really struggled to some of those empty sites struggling to regenerate post-earthquake. There's a lot of empty sites. Littleton's thriving in itself, but there's a lot of sites that are kind of empty. But in particular, I took him to see the empty site of the museum, of the future museum. So it's just something just to keep in mind. Noted. Yeah, just note that for future discussions. Museum. Good. That's me.
Awesome. I think Howard had one last thing.
I've just got one question for the council. Regarding freedom pens that we discussed earlier, when are they starting the monitoring this summer? Did you know?
I think it usually starts from Labour weekend.
Yeah, it's happening.
Oh, so, okay, so from Labour weekend through to what, February or something?
Easter.
Easter.
Usually up to like just after Easter, I think, from memory.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Yeah. So take note of that.
It has been, yes, we hear what Marcus had to say today, and I'm sure he made some important points. But it has been like the monitoring is effective, and it's getting more effective.
Okay.
There's a resident over in French Farm who's like on the blower to me, like immediately if there's anything that they see is not going well in French Farm, and snaps in solving and all that sort of stuff, and I followed that up, and it's been pretty effective.
Oh, they're there to inform, and they keep you running.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering when they start, because normally it's something. So.
Yep.
Right,
Doesn't always work, but I think with good community buy-in,
and refine it, yeah, definitely, get it better every time. It's finished,
Sorry, very quickly, just for chorus, who that's coming up, is it a good idea to invite chorus, Orion as well to this? Because we have quite a few power cuts throughout the peninsula and Orion's responsible for that service.
The main purpose of course is to explain why they need fibre. That's the main reason for the presentation. Orion, I would have to make a request, at the same time.
So potentially something to think about and put on the docket for later on. Yeah. Right. Let's finish up the official part of the meeting with the karakia. Unahia, ki te takanui. Karakia, mama,
te tina nā te waira I te ara takata. Oera I romo whakairi a ke tina,
Got everybody. There's a couple of things I've got noted here to first of all to note when we actually turn off from being live. That would be the first thing that